Shivangi, you will start.
जी भैया जी Happy Saturday and welcome to Ramashram Satsang Weekend Workshop, where you will learn a modern Satsang method for obtaining peace, light, and love in your life. My name is Shivangi and I will be introducing the facilitator for today's event. But first, I'd like to give you a brief overview to this Satsang session. If you will direct your attention to the screen, you will see the first element is Satsang. Satsang is a scientific method whereby we may obtain peace, light, and love in our lives. It requires no physical skill, spiritual accomplishment, or meditation experience to begin this practice. Satsang consists of two words, Sat and Sang. Sat means positive energy, and Sang means to be with or to be in the presence of. Therefore, the word satsang means to be in the presence of positive energy. The next element is meditation. Meditation is an important part of satsang. When we meditate, our consciousness is withdrawn from the worldly objects and directed inward to focus on a single thought. In doing so, our minds become calm and our thoughts become pure, leading us to higher states of consciousness such as enlightenment, peace, light, and love. Inner orientation. There are two types of satsangs, inner satsang and outer satsang. An example of outer satsang would be chanting or attending pilgrimages. When we practice outer satsang, we have the potential to change our behavior, but only through the practice of inner satsang can we obtain higher states of consciousness such as enlightenment, peace, light, and love. This is the type of satsang we will learn today where we meditate in silence. Group sessions. These weekend workshops are structured for group participation. When we meditate as a group, our focus is improved and our personal progress along our spiritual path is expedited. By regularly attending these weekend workshops, the benefits of group participation are amplified. Joy and inner happiness. All beings wish to experience joy. Joy is the eternal longing of the soul. But only through the practice of inner satsang can we obtain a joyous state. Each time we practice satsang, our inner happiness gradually increases, ultimately culminating in a state of joy that we experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The agenda for today's session consists of three parts: the informative session, the practice session, and the interactive session. Juan, could you please move the slide? During the informative session, a lecture would be given on a satsang topic, the founder, or some relevant spiritual topic. During the practice session, instructions on how to meditate will be given, followed by a period of practice. During the interactive session, you will have the opportunity to ask questions or there will be a panel discussion. And now, I'd like to introduce the facilitator for today's event. He has over 40 years of satsang experience. He is the grandson of Guru Maharaj, the founder of Ramashram Satsang. He was born into a satsang family where he witnessed his family members obtaining states of enlightenment and live lives of peace, light, and love. At an early age, he began traveling with the mission throughout India, facilitating satsangs. During that time, he witnessed the positive effects that satsang could have on mankind. Upon arriving in the United States, both he and his wife continued to facilitate satsangs for local satsangis. He has led teams of satsang members in translating important satsang literature into English and has worked tirelessly to make satsang more accessible to Western and English-speaking audiences. Currently travels throughout United States, India, and England, facilitating satsangs while maintaining his duties as a husband, a father, and an IT executive. Today, he will teach us a rare and ancient form of satsang as taught by Guru Maharaj. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sanjeev Kumarji.
So happy Saturday, everyone. Glad that we are here in Satsang. And um, so today, instead of talking about Satsang, basically, I wanted to give you all the homework. And a couple of weeks back, when this session was from Cleveland, Raghunathji talked about ego, and there was deep discussion on uh, the difference, if we can differentiate between um, the painting and the canvas on which the painting um, has been done. So much as if you change the colors, if you change the painting. um, so the question here is, who am I? And this question, philosophers and throughout ancient times, contemporary times, this comes up, and there have been so many theories, so many concepts, but this question, I think, is very personal. Needs to be um, answered for ourselves. Um, so, are we the body? Are we, the mind? Are we the thoughts? Thoughts come and go, body keeps changing. So, on the change that happens, the I think the question then becomes the persistence of identity, and what's the deep I, um, and what's the difference between the two. Um, so we also talked about significance of silence, and there I talked about Maharishi Raman from southern India, who actually used to ask everyone who would come to him to kind of contemplate, um, who am I? And in that process, he would say that um, just by asking that question, who am I? Um, you kind of become an observer. And interestingly, uh, you know uh, the meditation that we practice essentially is like we are observing this transcendental energy in form of light. Um, it's very similar, but asking this question, who am I? You know, then you would start looking at, am I my body? Um, am I my mind? And so if you look, it's my body, it's my mind, it's my brain. So then who am I? And interestingly, you know, so there was a pretty deep discussion about Maharishi Raman's, um, you know, discourse, and how he felt that asking this question is so important and so grounding, and it actually makes you more resilient, interestingly, because as soon as you start realizing yourself that you are not the fleeting temporary thing, you're not the painting on the canvas, you are the canvas. So slowly, by asking this question, who am I? When you start thinking about that, I'm not my feeling, what I am feeling, it's me who is feeling that. So, you know, when you differentiate the two, when you start uh, looking at yourself from that perspective, and you start observing your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, the whole process of understanding yourself starts, and your meditations become uh, very revealing and very deep. So interestingly, this dichotomy that this question brings, so the Greek historian Plutarch, so he puts this in perspective that uh, you know the king of Athens, Theseus. So he actually had this huge ship. So he took a voyage to Crete, and single-handedly killed evil Minotaur, and then came back to Athens. So the the folks in Athens um, thought that that was such a amazing uh, feat that was carried. And so what they did was that for 1,000 years they kept this ship intact, and every year they will reenact this voyage to Crete and back. And every time a part of the ship that would go bad, they will replace it. So now what happens within 1,000 years, almost all parts, or actually all parts of the ship, were now replaced. So now thing is, uh, the original ship versus this ship, which is same name, and but everything has changed. Is these two entities the same? Um, and then actually, Plutarch goes even further. He says, like, supposing somebody was collecting all the parts that were going bad, and there was another ship created with those parts. Now there will be these three entities: one, the original; the second, the one that was kept for 1,000 years with all new parts; and then there is another one that was created with the original parts. Um, which one? So who am I is a very interesting question for us, because am I the newborn? Am I the person right now? Am, uh, should I relate to when I was 5, when I was 15, etc., etc.? So um, the 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 thing is that what we are seem to be like the body. Our body is actually every 12 years, pretty much most of the cells in 12 years replace themselves. And we have been changing, but the name remains the same. And but who am I? You know, and the thing is, that's just the body. Then you go to the mind. So the one who got up and was very, uh, you know, depressed, am I that personality, or I'm happy right now, I'm with everyone? Is that me? So I keep changing. So this whole fleeting sort of thoughts uh, become me. We get attached to that, and the identity seem to be, you know. Uh, so anyway, the question I think for us to ask, um, and meditate on is who I really am. And interestingly, you know, uh, enlightenment is also, um, you know, it's also called self-realization, because understanding the self um, is in itself, um, very deep. And while we have talked about this, so Guru Maharaj's view was slightly different. He said, yes, we can become very philosophical, but if we meditate, if we be with the transcendental energy, so this energy, which is in form of light, that light, which is essentially knowledge. So when the light turns on, you start seeing things differently. And in that light, you will realize who you really are. So his view was more of all this, um, sort of uh, questioning slash observing would happen within this meditation. And as you get to higher states, your awareness of how connected I am with nature and everything around me, how my identity is deeper than just the body or the mind, um, that starts dawning on us. And that essentially should turn into service, um, because at the end of the day, how we behave, what we do, and where's the sense of purpose that comes through this observation as well. So anyway, so that's the question, that's the homework, that's that's what we need to uh, meditate on today. So on that note, let's get into the meditation itself. So eyes lightly closed and relaxed and still posture, because both of those things help in the inward orientation. And the focus here is to find inner peace, which is inside. And um, so think of this transcendental energy in form of light that's right here, right now. Feel the connection, feel the presence. And this transcendental energy in form of light is entering your heart, enlightening your heart, and then distributing throughout your body. And you are getting totally and completely immersed in this light. So you're becoming the light. When mind wanders away, which it will, just bring it back to this observation of this enormously uplifting and positive energy in form of light that's entering your heart, distributing throughout your body, and you're becoming immersed in this. So we'll start with music that helps concentration, and then the music fades away, and then we go deep into silent meditation on this transcendental light. And then we transition out with music, this meditation, in the deep meditation states. We get to higher consciousness and higher awareness as we get into those deeper states. So let's start now. A happy Saturday, everyone. Glad that we are here in Satsang. Um, so, the question we started with today is, "Who am I?" You know, uh, and this question is so deep that eventually, through this meditation, also you will get to states where you get better understanding of the answer. And I was talking about Maharishi Raman. Um, and so, you know, he used to repeatedly ask visitors to contemplate, quote unquote, the following question: what is this thing inside you that is aware of your thoughts? What is this thing inside you that claims that it is perceiving objects outside of your mind, outside of yourself? And when he said contemplate, he meant putting attention exclusively on it and keeping it there. So he didn't mean that you should study it as an object and come to some intellectual conclusion about it. So the I which we assume ourselves to be is not something that ever comes under scrutiny, because we are all obsessed with the continuous flow of objects that present themselves to us. Remembered objects, perceived objects, the thought objects. So, you know, just asking this question makes you the observer and puts a distance between what is being perceived and who you really are. It gets really interesting and deep. So, all right. So, on that note, let's open it up. So, questions, thoughts, comments. I think I'll have to. I always think that, you know, how can I convince everyone to put their videos on, which obviously is not something that I want to impose upon, or, you know, something that, you know, but at least during conversation. And the reason I talk about that is more like, say, if we all, I mean, yes, it's a virtual setting, but if we all were in person, you would not have the option to put your video off. And I just say that lightly, but so anyway, and thank you. The reason sometimes I feel that, you know, there can be some backdrop or some reasons why you would not want to have the video on. And interestingly, even at work, when you see somebody on the video versus in person, it's not exactly the same, which is very interesting. So Arvindji, how's everything? And
Namaskar, Bhaiya. Namaskar, everybody, and happy Dashera. Yeah, all good. And again, fortunate to join this blissful satsang that you bring to us, Guru Maharaj's transcendental energy. And we're lucky to be here. Thank you. As you were asking this very deep question that really calls for great reflection, But I presume it's within us, the answer somewhere that, as you said, uh, joining satsang in due course perhaps will reveal what the answers are. But the thought comes to one's mind of Param Bhagavat Panditji Maharaj. Guru Maharaj is one of his principal disciples, who said, look at the world like a bucket full of water with countless numbers of ice cubes floating in the water. Every ice cube has its own identity, its own shape, its own state of melt, and perhaps every ice cube is different from the other ice cube. But all the ice cubes are made from the same water, and in the fullness of time, they will melt and become inseparable with that water. So just remembering what Param Bhagavat said, that's all. None of a personal, cannot say it from myself because perhaps I don't exist. Perhaps he's there.
See, it's like if you look at bakery, for example, right? I mean, you can make different kind of cakes from the same material, right? It's like, and I think I was talking about this because I was watching a video of Maharishi Raman, and interestingly, it also talked about what Raghunathji talked about at Cleveland, that you know there is a painting on top of the canvas, and we're looking at the painting. So it's like the painting is like the thoughts that are coming through or things that we're seeing, and the painting keeps changing, and we attach ourselves to that painting that can be changed, or the colors that are evolving on the canvas. And so if we connect to the canvas, then so I and the deep I, it's like interestingly that it's like the Matrix, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I was thinking of the movie. Yeah, watch a movie, and and it's all moving and it's changing, but the screen's the same. But movie is transient and fleeting.
but
Yeah.
it's very hard to grasp that concept till you actually internalize and kind of get to the state where you actually can see the thoughts and feelings. Or so if you start observing your feelings, um, you have detached yourself, because the observer and the feeling then become uh, you know there is a distance now, and that itself is a phenomenal change in perspective. And that's what I think Maharishi Raman talks about, that once you start asking just this one question, your perception slowly changes as you contemplate. um, but then again, if you go to YouTube as usual, it's like the question can be asked on the 5 realms. You can ask at the bottom, at the middle, at the top, and the answer will be very, very different. Um, um, very well. So, Steve, how are you?
So I'm doing very well today. That's a very deep question. I also, when you asked that, it made me think about other people too, and how we perceive others. We think about who am I. I think we try to. Sometimes we see other people and we don't understand all the dimensions there are to them. I was at the CrossFit gym this week, and one of the men there, we were discussing current events. We were talking about this ongoing war between Hezbollah and Israel. And John, this fellow at the gym, he was in Beirut in the early 1980s when the Marine barracks there was bombed, and there were 241 people killed. And he, he asked, "Are you a reader?" And he gave me this book on Lebanon, and I think it's essentially what he's done is tried to give me a window into his soul. When I watch him, he's very active in terms of trying to help raise money and awareness for people with post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think that event certainly greatly impacted his life just because of where he was and when he was. And then I was also thinking about a student we teach SEL skills, social emotional learning skills. And I have this young girl, 13 years old, junior high student, and we were talking about, I wanted to focus on trying to help them improve their self-management skills. We talked about things like impulse control and self-discipline, and trying to develop better organizational skills and coping with anxiety. And here's this 13-year-old girl. She's an excellent student. She's, in my perception, seemingly well-liked, attractive girl. And she wrote about her anxiety and how she just always thinks things are going to turn out for the worst. And so it made me think of this willpower book. There's this Kelly McGonigal. She wrote this book, Willpower, and how people form healthy habits. And she said it takes 21 days to form or embed a habit. And one of the ways she tries to encourage people to do that is just to write 5 I will statements and 5 I won't statements. And so this essentially was the assignment for the students, was to write down 5 things they would do and 5 things that they wouldn't do. But I had never perceived this young person to be someone who is so anxious. And I think there's just so much anxiety in the world right now. It made me, I don't know, the question just, it took me a million directions. But certainly there's personal introspection, but there's also this part of me that tells me we can't always judge a book by its cover. And so we just have to, I think we're all in the process of becoming. We're all fluid. So hopefully we can cling to things that, trying to make the right moral choices, trying to seek knowledge, trying to take action. Hopefully, when we surround ourselves with good people, we'll be moving to higher ground, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but it made me think a lot.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea. I think that everyone needs to, when you contemplate on that question, I think that itself is actually one of Maharishi Raman's disciples here has really created a very nice video where he talks about how just that question then starts making you observe things that are happening around you, and within you in terms of feelings and thoughts, and that's and he goes on to talk about how life-changing that is, because that just so and the reason I bring that up is, like, we don't essentially ask that question, but we are actually in the practice here observing the light, and within the light, everything that's happening within and outside. And as we go through the realms, as we have talked about, like, you're talking about observing others, but once you get to a point where you realize how interconnected we are, and I mean, like, there is a state when it becomes crystal clear that we are part of the same canvas. We might be, the one picture versus the other. It's on the same canvas, so we are like interconnected in the back end of some sort. And being so that consciousness becomes the common thing, and once somehow that's what it, maybe just realizing that in a way that it makes you relate to other people and their situations and their what they're going through, like literally it's in a way like when I look at my early years, the leaders in satsang were like visiting people, meeting people. Their homes were like literally open to everybody, like no questions asked. And sometimes in the current context here, I feel about, security and all these other things pop up. But there, what I saw was like literally anybody could walk in, anybody could, come ask questions, practice, and like a lot of them would come with a quest or a question in which is very, sometimes it's like, I'm dealing with this and this, and they would just come and so it's the thing is that at the top of the pyramid, it's like that harmlessness. So you're like so accessible. People just come to you because you are so accessible. Like, when you call on somebody, it's like, does that person have time? Does that person will even answer? Does he even care? All that is gone, right? So you achieve that state when people feel that you are so accessible in so many different, and I mean like the full spectrum of that statement, in the sense like the meaning of accessibility is like, people know that you are not, you are literally invited, you are welcome, you get the kind of love that they have not seen even within their family. It's so, I mean, that was day in and day out. It was like, that was the way of their life. It was, they're not asking them where you're coming from, who you are, even sometimes. They would just come, they will talk, and, it's a interesting way to live. Giving back becomes so much easier that way. But see, the thing is that a lot of people can do, but then when you imbibe this transcendental energy, when you imbibe peace, when you imbibe love in its purest form, when you imbibe knowledge in its purest form, that when you're sharing with others, it's a whole new ballgame. So I do see, the thing is, we all have to give back in some way, shape, or form. But think of like you had abundance and then you share the anxiety, and I don't mean to say it lightly. I'm just saying if a person with anxiety comes in, meets you, and they feel that the anxiety is nowhere in sight anymore, then you have reached where you need to be, right? It's like, because say if you had something in abundance, it just, then how would the other person not feel it? You know what I mean? It's like, if you're so much at peace, then the other person feels that, effortlessly. So you don't have to do anything. Oh, very well. Good discussion. Really nice to see you all. Great satsang. And a phenomenal question. Right? It's just, and I do believe that just asking this question can transform you in due course. And the flip side is that I think when you meditate and when you practice the kind of practice that we do, automatically, I think literally, automatically you get to a point where this gets answered, because it ought to be answered to, at some point in time. So on that note, see you all soon. Glad that we were here in Satsang. Love, light, and peace be with you. And I mean it in every possible way. So see you all soon.
Happy Saturday to all. Happy Vijayadashmi. I wish that it will be great time to be on I and on me, how to control these things. But one thing is not clear to me, that how we should do for understand pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti mein nivritti and nivritti mein pravritti. That is not clear to me, and this will be the future question.
Yeah, how do we, be spiritual, be detached, and be in the world at the same time, and how does that affect? Yeah. So, yeah, Omkar is always the deep philosophical states. All right. One of people I respect in satsang always says that when you actually feel the vibe, feel the connection, and feel that, energy, the group energy, and that's when you have to kind of, get away from it, and do what we need to do. So see you all soon. Take care. And, we'll be in satsang.
Sorry to join late.
No stress.